This episode is sponsored by the Twindle Foundation. Learn more at www.twindlefoundation.org.
Let's talk.
So many people stay hidden due to fear. Fear of judgment, shame, or even guilt. You are not alone on your journey. Girl, you are not alone. This is a safe place. A place to be heard, a place to be free, a place to be yourself. Bring your girlfriends and let's talk about it. Yeah, let's talk about it.
First, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, and then I'm going to tell you how my morning is going, because it's going to take me right into the topic. So I want to let you start first, and then I'm going to jump right on in there. So if you would, please just tell everyone your name and a little bit about yourself.
I'm Alfred Thomas Jr. I go by Al. I live in Lexington, South Carolina. I'm from Georgetown, South Carolina originally. Married for 14 July. I'll make 14 years. I got 2 kids, a 9-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son. My profession is I'm a licensed professional counselor. I've been doing that now since, 2007 in various capacities, but that's, now I just do full-time therapy, virtually through a few virtual platforms, along with a few other, business ventures, but that's my full-time occupation. That's about it.
Yeah. So what made you decide to go to be a therapist?
I became a therapist primarily because I started out thinking I was going to do computer programming. And honestly, when I got to college, I wasn't ready to I wasn't disciplined enough to work through like calculus. I could write code, but I wouldn't go to class, so I wouldn't do well on the test, and I didn't do well with calculus. And I realized I like dealing with people more than dealing with computers. So that's kind of how I got in that direction of psychology. I thought I was going to do substance abuse counseling because I have a family history of substance abuse. But then I realized that I kind of like, I think I wanted to work more so with like adolescents, because I didn't think I was going to make a big impact with working with adults that were struggle with substance abuse. And that's just kind of my bias, I guess, probably, and not wanting to deal with that. But that's kind of how I got into the lane of being a mental health counselor as opposed to a substance abuse counselor.
Now, after all of these years working as a counselor with younger people, how do you feel about it?
I like it. I like it. I think I really enjoyed working primarily with younger people because I thought kind of at a younger age, they were more impressionable. You can kind of help them as they were developing and identifying who they were going to be. So you can help them put skills into place as they mature. So I really like it. I work across the board now. Like I work with adolescents, and adults now. But most of my career, probably from 07 to like 15, I primarily work with young people in different capacities.
That's really good. I think that, and I'm sure you're able to relate because you are a big kid, but I'm sure you're able to relate because it's so hard for young people to find, well, not even young people. I think it's hard to find someone that you can relate to as far as a counselor or someone that you can connect with. Because even as an adult, I have a hard time finding the right person I had a hard time finding the right person to open up with and to share, because a lot of times people want to give you advice and they can't relate to what you're going through. Or sometimes they want to snatch the bandage off so quickly without allowing you to just kind of ease into it.
Yeah, that's a hard part. And it comes back to like personality. Just my personality, I've always been able to kind of relate to people and get along with people. So that's my strong suit as a therapist. A lot of people have a lot more clinical certifications than I do. They go to probably a lot more trainings than I do. But what allows me to continue to do well is I can connect with people. We get to the clinical things, right? Because that's important. You got to have that in your bag. You got to be able to take that approach and use different modalities. But if you can't connect with people, then you're gonna struggle because people sense it, and you can lose someone in like the first session if you can't connect with people. So that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, I think what you said, and what I think that's important in any field, I think that people should know what their strengths are and not compare yourself to someone else. Just like you say, you don't have this, but you have this. And a lot of times, even in my career field or anything that I do, I always look at what other people are doing, and I'm like, man, I wish I could do this, or I wish I had. And then I have to stop and think, I'm good at what I do because I'm unique, I'm different, and I just need to use what I have to reach other people instead of trying to be like someone else. And that's hard for a lot of people.
Yeah. No, yeah. You're right. You're right. Absolutely.
Yes, I think that it's important in any field that you should take your strength and then just utilize that to help you to develop and to craft your skill and to become the person that you're supposed to, because I feel like we're going to reach the audience that we're catered to or that we're supposed to versus trying to go out. And I have this struggle, especially when I started the podcast. I listen to a lot of different podcasts. And so sometimes I'm like, man, I wish I could be like this person. Or sometimes I even feel like I'm not smart enough, and not as far as the podcast, but in certain areas of my life. And I had this discussion with a friend. I was just like, man, sometimes I don't feel like I'm smart enough, but there's a lot of things that I do know. And I feel like I should, instead of worrying about what I don't have, I should focus more on what I do have and just celebrate that versus trying to always look at the negatives, because you're always going to find something that's wrong.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you there. Focus on the areas that you're good at. Use those strengths. But if you want to learn more, because I'm constantly like learning more things, but I have my areas that I know I do well in. And if people come to me and they're like, yo, do you specialize in this? Like, can you work with me? I have an eating disorder. Can you help me with that? I'm like, no, I can't. That's not my specialty, right? And I do more harm than good. So I'm not going to touch that. Now, once you've probably gotten some treatment with someone who specializes in that area, and then you want to come back to me and we want to work on anger or depression or trauma, stuff like that, then yeah, we can do that. But I'm not going to work with someone just to make the money, you know what I mean? Because I do more harm than good.
That's right. You know what? When I was in college, one of my professors said, do what you love, or do the things that you enjoy, and the money will always come. And I think a lot of times people focus more on money, especially when you're just starting out, when you're just graduating college or you're just starting out in your career. We all want to race to a certain point where we feel like we're successful and we put a dollar sign on it. But later on, I think that we figure out that there's more to life than just money. And you have to, our priorities change, our values change, and then we start to change and focus on more of helping people and serving versus serving ourselves, trying to get money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think doing what you love. I like helping people. I like working with people. And I got away from doing therapy for a while, in a full-time capacity, just because kids, family, it wasn't the money that I thought I needed to make in order to support my family wasn't in like working as a state employee providing therapy. So I left. I never knew that I could work with my background in so many different capacities, like insurance. I worked in insurance from 2014 to 2021, just doing various things in insurance, like healthcare quality, utilization management, because working in insurance, the money was much better than if I was like working for an agency doing therapy, Department of Juvenile Justice or Department of Mental Health, anything like that. The money was just so much better. But then when the pandemic came, I saw some opportunities where I could work virtually and work with people pretty much like across the world. And it allowed some more flexibility. So then I could do what I love. And I thought, the money was what I wanted it to look like in order to do what I loved even more so, right? So you got to kind of go through different routes, different avenues to kind of get where you want to go. Because the truth is, like, if I had stuck with working for the state of South Carolina, I would have never been able to support my family just
Wow.
doing therapy. You know what I mean? So that's kind of, you gotta do what you love, but also make the adjustments in order to be able to provide for yourself, you know?
You know what? I'm glad that you said that, because while you were talking, this is what came to me, that I can't say anybody else, but I feel like, especially for someone, and I've shared this so many times, that I've started a career out chasing money, and that has left me in a bad place mentally. And so now I look at life more of do whatever it is that allows me to become the best version of myself. That's important to me, because at the end of the day, there's so much that comes along with making money, and it's things that you sacrifice, and you're not taking care of yourself. And so that makes me realize that I need to become the best version of myself, and you can't put a price on that. Like there's not enough money for that to become the best. Because when you, at the end of the day, you take all of that stuff off, all the work, and you just get out of your car, and then you unpack all of the baggage at home with your family, and you want to make sure that you're good for them and you're good for yourself as well. And when you bring all of that mess home when you're chasing money, because there's so much that comes along with it, you're not giving them the best version of yourself. There's no way that you can. You know, and a lot of times we find ourselves sweeping things under the rug. I did that for a very long time. Sweeping things under the rug, not dealing with whatever life brought me. And then when I finally crashed and burned, I had to look myself in the mirror and finally had to deal with all the mess that I did. And I mean, years of mess. So just imagine having to go back and clean up the mess for like 10, 15 years, or however long people stay in their career path until they decide to make that shift.
Yeah. No, I got you. I got you. Peace of mind, man. Peace of mind.
It's very important.
It's priceless.
Absolutely. And you know what? When you first started, you were asking me how my morning was going. I said I wanted to wait because there was something that I wanted to share. I don't know, for some reason, I have been dealing with, I'm assuming this time again, this anxiety. For some reason, like a few years ago, I was in this car accident and I had really bad anxiety. And so I would wake up in the middle of the morning. I would be like really tired, long days, and I would sleep 2 or 3 hours and I would be up, like just crazy, just up for no reason. And so I went through that for like 8 months. And then finally I started at least getting I started getting about 5 hours of sleep. And I was like, okay, I'm getting better. And then I got to a place where I was comfortable and I was okay. So now I'm sleeping about 6 hours. So I'm okay now. I'm feeling like I'm getting in the groove. And right after that, as soon as I got to a good place, I was in another accident. And I was right back to where I was. And so this time, not even like, it took me a while to get back to this point, but I'm right back at sleeping at 3 hours again, waking up in the middle of the morning, like just wide open for no reason. And even at night when I go to sleep, I unwind. Like I can just lay there. I don't turn the TV on. I try to leave my phone off because sometimes people want to talk in the middle of the nighttime. But you know, and I just stop thinking. Like my whole mind shuts down. There's nothing going on, and I'm like, I can feel myself drifting. I'm like, okay, I need to kind of get ready for bed. You know, brush my teeth and stuff like that. And so I don't know what it is. And every night it's the exact same thing. I go to bed early. Next thing you know, I'm up. I go to bed at probably like midnight, probably. Now, if I'm working, sometimes I work till 3 or 5, you know, and then even if I go to bed at 5 a.m., I'm back up at 7 o'clock, like clockwork. And I don't even know how I do it. Like, I don't even understand. Like, I don't know what's going on. I can't figure it out. So that's where I am. So it's just like something going on. It's something going on in my mind that I don't know, that I'm unaware of. It has to be, because that's like crazy.
It's something there. I don't know. You got, what were you doing that allowed you? I always tell people, look, you got to figure out what you were doing before that allowed you to get to that point that you thought things were doing well. And you realize you probably stopped doing those things probably. So
yeah, you know what? I maybe it's a crash, because the last couple of weeks I have been working on a project. And so I've been going to bed between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. And so the last couple of nights I've been up to like 5 o'clock. And then, and I would just wake up because I'm on a schedule, like, you know what I'm saying? So I automatically get up at a certain time. And so my body just automatically gets up, but I'm not tired or anything. It's just like, I'm up. And I'm just like, but you only slept like 2 hours. What's going on? Yeah, so that's like,
You know it ain't sustainable though. You better figure that thing out.
yeah, that's crazy, and it's so important. And a lot of times, people, because I hear people talk about, being able to function, throughout life and at work and all kinds of stuff that they do without, proper rest. And I'm just thinking to myself, because I'm for me, I like to monitor my sleep. I use my Fitbit, and I like to monitor my sleep pattern, and I like to see how much deep sleep that I get, because I read that, when you go into deep sleep, that's when your heart's able to rest, your brain's able to, your body does what it needs to do. So I could tell the difference when I don't have enough deep sleep, because that means I'm not resting. I'm only sleeping, and so I find myself not being able to rest. I know the difference from when I'm actually sleeping and when I'm resting. I don't know how people can function like this. I'm trying to get back to where I used to be. And it makes me think, like, I don't understand how people can function throughout life without having proper rest that they need to continue to go. Yeah. So yeah.
It's important. It's important. It's very important. We can work ourselves to death, man. But yeah, you gotta get that rest. I think you're supposed to get like 35% of your sleep is supposed to be like deep sleep. You know what I mean? So I try to track mine too, and I don't always get to 35%, but maybe like half of the week I'll get there. But it's difficult.
Well, that's good. 35%. That's the first time that I've heard that. Now I'm gonna have to keep checking now, because I'm terrible. Like, everything in my life, I don't know why I feel like it needs to be perfect, or I need to strive for perfection. I don't know why, but I have, and I'm trying to get to a place where I kind of just back off of it and just be like, if I make a mistake or an error, now I'm at a place where I'm just like, just live with it and be okay. Now that's hard for me. That's really hard for me. But I feel like I'm okay with not being okay that something is not right. But I am going to strive for that 35%. I'm going to try to work on it. I'm not going to be perfect, but I feel like it's good to know things. It's good to know things so that you can at least just strive for it. At least that's how I feel. I'm always trying to strive for something. Maybe I'm an overachiever. I think that don't.
No, I don't think you overachiever. I'm just saying you gotta have something you're striving for or working towards, right? I think in anything you gotta know what you're working towards. That's why, like, even in therapy, we gotta set goals. When someone comes in, we don't just say like, we doing therapy, like, okay, we just here to talk or whatever. We just here to see each other. Like, we develop some goals. Like, what did you come here for? How are you going to know when you've gotten to a point where we don't need therapy regularly anymore? You know what I mean? Just like anything, like when you go to a physical therapist, you got goals, right? They say goals. So yeah, so you got to have some goals in life in general, just with anything, I think.
But how do you know, like, even like for someone that comes into your office, like most of the time people are going to come when they're going through pain. And the biggest part is that they don't want to feel that pain anymore. Like, I just don't want to feel that, or I don't want to deal with, you know what I'm saying? They just want it to go away, and they just want to get back to their normal routine, where they feel okay. But how do you know when it's enough? Like, how do you know when it's time to walk away? Because if I go into a therapy session, I'm probably going to be like, oh, I'm hurting and I need some help. But I don't know what kind of help that I need. I don't know what that process looks like. I don't even know what type of mind frame that I should come in with. Like, you know what I'm saying? What type of goals that I should set coming into starting a therapy session. Yeah. That's kind of tough, because a lot of people might come in like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to expect. You don't know what to expect.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I tell people, like, I'm very transparent, right? So I tell people from the beginning, like, I'm just meeting you, right? Like, so I don't know. Like, we figure it out together. Like, we the only way I can determine where we're headed is based on the information somebody gives me, right? So they give me the information, and then we develop the goals together, and we also determine together when we think it's time to separate, right? Like, because I don't have all the answers. There's no one size fits all approach. I have certain kind of routine things that I use in my approach, like cognitive behavioral therapy. That's where most of my training's at. So that's the foundation of what I use, but that's not going to work with everybody, right? And we just determine the direction that we're going when we come in. And that's another thing that brings, like, I go back to where, like, I've always been able to just relate to people. And when people come in, they come in with this mindset that we're going to do like this, very routine, stuffy assessment or evaluation where I'm just going to ask them all these questions. So tell me about your childhood. Have you ever used drugs? Tell me about your relationship with your parents. But you can get that in a way that's very like a conversation, just like we're having right now, right? Mm-hmm. So we get that, and that kind of helps you to open up. But it really is like, I can't make those decisions for people, right? Because I don't have to live with the consequences, whether they're positive or perceived negative consequences of the direction that we go, or decisions that are made. So that's why we make those decisions together. And ultimately, people that I work with make their own choices about what they want to use, that I recommend, or what they don't want to use. Because once again, I don't have to live with the outcome of how things play out in their lives, right?
Yeah. Oh, you know what? There's something while you're talking. There's something that came to me. So I have sessions like pretty much once a week, and I know that it probably should come to an end because I'm becoming really good with processing by myself. Like I'm like really proud of myself. I keep my notes and stuff like that. I think through things, whatever, and it just automatically comes together. And even I've been told, like, you're doing really good. Like, you can really process. I do good. I don't want to leave. I'm afraid that if I go back out by myself, that I don't want to, I feel like maybe I'm going to mess up, or I don't want to go backwards. And so I'm just being honest. I don't want to cut ties because I'm afraid that I might go backwards. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That makes absolutely no sense, but it's the truth.
It does make sense. I mean, it does make sense because it's a relationship, right? Y'all have developed a relationship. Y'all work together. Like I haven't seen my therapist, I think, since November 2020. November 2020. Yeah. So November 2020. That's where I thought I was I've been in a really good space for the most part since then. But I do know that, like, we call them booster sessions. So if I need to see her, if I find myself in a space where I think I need to see her, I need to talk to her, and then I'll schedule it. So, like, it's not always that when you kind of, we call it terminate. So that sounds so bad, but let's say when y'all, develop the exit plan doesn't have to be permanent. You could leave with the idea of y'all are going to have booster sessions, whether those be like, I don't recommend the booster session being like over a year, like with me, but I just feel confident in kind of where I'm at that I don't need to see her. But some people do 3 months. People that I work with, they know how to get back with me. So we may go 6 months, and then I may see them show back up on my schedule. And okay, I need to talk to you. Something's come up. So it's just really what works best for you. But I would say, talk to your therapist about it and see, because the truth is, like, our job, I always say, not that the job is easy, but the people that come see us do all the work. Like, we make recommendations, right? And then everybody that we work with, they have to do all the heavy lifting. So therapists get so much of the credit when the truth is that the person on the receiving end of the information that we give do all the work. Like, but it's hard to realize, like, because it's like, oh, you've helped me so much. You know, you're so great. You've helped change my life. When really, no, we just made some recommendations.
I'm so sorry. I shouldn't laugh. You're like, you helped me so much. You're great. I'm thinking to myself, no, you're not great. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, like, you know, like people we work with make all they putting all the heavy lifting, do all the work, and start making the changes because they're living their lives, right? But yeah, give it a shot and see. Y'all talk about it.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to kind of wean myself off of it and see how things go, whatever. But you're right. The doors are always open, and I know that. I don't know why, but taking a step back scares me. It really does. Even sometimes, like in cycles, or even like in the grievance cycle, and you know, when you start and then you kind of get to that finish line, but then you feel like something takes you back to, and I always feel like, oh no, something's wrong. I must have tricked myself. I can't be healed. Oh, this is so I go into that panic mode, and I'm like, hold on a second now. It's not even the same. So I have to bring myself together and realize that it's a part of the process. And sometimes I might be all over the place, but that's absolutely okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we gotta normalize that. Like, if somebody come to me and they're like, "Look, I got anxiety. I've been battling anxiety, and I don't want to feel this anxiety anymore." Like, well, we ain't gonna get rid of that because that's a natural emotion, right? So you're gonna feel some anxiety, but what we can do is we can get you to a point where it's not overwhelming, and we can get you to a point where you're able to navigate it well. Just like with grief, we know that, there's different phases to grief, and you're always going to feel some of that grief. Like, so you got your different stages of it, right? Not just like anger and depression and stuff like that. You got just kind of like your acute grief and then like integrated grief. So it's always going to be there. Birthdays come around, holidays come around, you hear a song, and you're going to experience some of those feelings that feel like those stages of grief. So you try to normalize that. Like, normalize those things as much as you possibly can. And just know that there are going to be periods of time where those things are going to come, and we try to work through them.
Yeah, that's good. I think that, and that's one reason why I started a podcast, because I feel like there's so much that I feel like people keep things inside because of fear or guilt or shame or whatever it is, or maybe embarrassment, and they don't want to talk about things. And a lot of times I have conversations with people, and sometimes I get the response of, "I'm so glad that you brought this up because I've been feeling this exact same way," or "No one ever told me." And so for me, going through the grievance cycle, and while I was all over the place and panicking because I thought that I was not moving in the right direction, I wish that someone would have just said, "Hey, it's okay. Like, this is a part of the process." So now, even when I talk with people, I let them know that, hey, you might feel this way, but it's absolutely okay. I've always been trying to let people know that whatever they're going through, whatever they're feeling, it's absolutely okay for them. It's not a setback, but it's okay. It's a part of the process. Yeah, that was very big for me. There's something else that I wanted to. I know what it was. Do you remember, like, when we were talking about doing what you love and the things that you're good at, and you and I had this conversation. I think it was like a year ago, and I was saying that I had anxiety every time. This was last year. Every time that I would get on, like when I would do a TV interview or a radio interview, a podcast interview, before I would go, I would always have really bad anxiety. And you was just like, anxiety, it's okay to have anxiety. And I'm just thinking to myself, no, I don't think it's that type of anxiety. Like, I would be like, my heart would be racing, and I would be up early, and I could never pull it together, right? This is crazy. But this year, when I started the podcast, it totally flipped around. So I think that I had to realize which side of the table that I belonged on, because I don't like to, I'll do interviews. I don't have a problem with it. It's just the fact of getting past that fear of and anxiety. But when I'm on this side of the table, no anxiety whatsoever. And I don't think that it's, I've gotten better. No, I think I just realized the right side of the table that I need to be on. Does that make sense? Just figuring out what works best for me. And I think it was just so much pressure when I was on the other side of the camera screen, because it was always someone in my ear saying, you got to say this and you got to say that, and it has to be this and it has to be that way. And they're expecting this. And it's just like, that's too much. Or going over the notes, and it's almost like I wasn't free to be myself. And that's the part that really just, that's what I didn't like. I felt like I was being placed into a box. And I think that that's probably what triggered my anxiety, because I'm more of a free person. And I like to do whatever it is that I want to do. Although sometimes you might need a little navigation. I might need to, but I still like to do whatever. I want to be comfortable and happy in whatever it is that I do. Whatever I do, I want to be, I want to do it with joy. You know what I'm saying? So I could continue to do it. But if someone takes that away from me, I no longer want to do that. So I had to learn. I had to really learn, like, do whatever makes me happy and not whatever makes someone else happy. And I had to learn to do it my own way as well, too, because when people try to tell me what direction to go into, that don't work for me. I'm rebellious. I'm very, very rebellious. And so that makes it hard. But the moment that I took a step back and I allowed people to get out of my ear and stop telling me what to do, it seemed like it just automatically started working for me. that just made me think that I don't have to live life on somebody else's terms, and I don't have to do it the way that society expects for me to do it. I can live life and do whatever it is that I want to do the way that I want to do it.
That's it.
Yeah, I think that's an important message for people. So I feel like in whatever it is that we're doing or in our career path, we don't have to. Well, I mean, if you're taking orders from someone, you have to kind of do it their way, or you figure out a way, or you figure out a way to navigate it and do it yourself, or branch out on your own. But I think that's the whole reason why I came into entrepreneurship as well too, because I was accustomed to doing things the way that someone else wanted me to do it, even in life, period. And so now I just live life the way I want to live it, on my own terms, which probably doesn't make sense to anybody else, but it works for me.
Makes sense to me. That's how I've always been. People didn't necessarily agree with the things that I did, and that's okay. And I wouldn't say that I never thought about what people thought about the things that I did, but I was going to do whatever the heck I wanted to do, whether the consequences turn out in my favor or not. I'm still that way. I'm going to do what I want to do, and people might not agree with it, but, well, I'm the one that has to live with the consequences. And now I live a little bit differently now because I got a wife and kids, you know what I mean? So I have to think about how my actions will impact them.
Yeah.
So, I think things through a little more now. But even before, when I made poor decisions, I would think it through. I knew that the outcome was going to not be favorable for me probably, but I was going to do it anyway. So I just think, you live life on your own terms. And I got a son that lives just like that now. And it's scary because you definitely got that part of my personality. But I'm like, oh, yeah, I know what's going on. Yeah, I see it. It is what it is.
That's funny. I think that I'm a little bit impulsive sometimes. So sometimes it might not be like, I probably should have done that, but oh well. I'm just like, well, I have to just deal with whatever comes with it. And so even for myself in real estate, I do like sometimes I can get into very heated arguments with other people on the opposite side. And so I basically so for my broker, it's almost like they babysit you. They try to keep you out of trouble. But see, I end up working for someone who didn't mind my impulsive behavior. And sometimes we have conversation and he says to me, well, I can't do it like you do it. And I'm just like, why not? Say whatever it is that you feel. Like, I don't want to have any regrets, but I also know that I do need to be more mindful of the things that I say to others. But over the years that I've learned, I've done business for a very long time. Like since I was 14, I was working in sales. And so I've seen people have heated conversation and go back and forth and then just be back at it again. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of like the language. This is how it's done or whatever. And so I always say to myself, oh, this is business. We want to do business again, because when I worked for someone else, it didn't matter how people made me feel. It was like, suck it up and you would have to, you know what I'm saying? Oh, they're going to come back, or oh, you're going to work with this person again. So, you know what I'm saying? Just make money. That's how it was. And so even now it's more of, well, we're going to do business again. So, and we're always going to put our feelings aside and do what's right for the customer. So yeah, I always get into it with people. And then I immediately, because I already know somebody going to call and tell on me. So it's best for me. It's best for me to make the phone call myself and say, hey, listen, this is what happened. And this was my response, just in case. And so my broker, he would say, well, let me know if I need to call legal. Well, let me get the attorneys on the line and, that type of stuff. But yeah, I do manage to become a little bit impulsive, and I definitely will push some buttons. Even if I feel like something's right or someone's being taken advantage of, then yeah, I definitely go into this, like, I hate to say this word, but sometimes I feel like I can become a bully. That bothers me. It really does. But it's like you're fighting for the right thing. That's how I feel. But I could do it in a different way.
Yeah. But anybody ever told you did anybody ever tell you that you were a bully?
No, but the way that I treat those people, I'm like, man, you just bullied that person. That was terrible. Like,
so really? You think you're a bully? Nobody's ever said you were.
No, they've never said that. They've never said that. But sometimes I've had my sister, she was in a different room one time and she heard the conversation and she just looked at me like, wow. Yeah. So, but it always makes me feel like a bad person afterwards. But it's like I'm standing up for what's right, and I feel like you're taking advantage of this person that's not right. And so I listen, not listen, but I think that sometimes I don't know if it's because I'm female or because maybe people have this perception of I'm just a nice person. And so, and I am a nice person, but I'm also going to get my point across. Like, yeah, the nice person, yeah, don't sleep on it. Don't. Like, I'm really a nice person, but at some point, like, if you push me the wrong way, I feel like I turn into the Incredible Hulk. And that is that. And then afterwards, when I come down, I kind of crash, and like, it bothers me. Like, it makes me feel like really bad. Like I don't know who that person is, and I don't like that person to come out. But yeah, it's like almost like a beast. Like I try to tame him, but it doesn't work. It doesn't. It really doesn't.
I just come back to the evidence. Nobody's told you that you're a bully. You think you're a bully, right? Mm-hmm. So that's something that you got to work on, right? So no one said that.
Yeah.
No one's told you that. You think that you're doing what's most appropriate for the people that you work with based on the information you've gotten. So you got to think about that. Like, what about that makes you think that you're being a bully, right? Because you got to remember, it's just thought. It's a thought. Yeah. You can't feel like you're a bully. You think you're a bully. So that makes you feel a certain way emotionally. And then you respond in your behavior a certain way. So this ain't a therapy session, though.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. You stole that to slow drop, and this is not a therapy session.
No, I'm just messing with you. But that's what my brain, my brain kind of goes. I'm like, she ain't a bully. So why does he think she's a bully? Like,
well, that's because you have not seen me in action. It's terrible. Like I had this confrontation with this guy before, and I think that it's over the years, like working in a male-dominated field, it's kind of like you have to stand up for yourself. And I felt like, and so a lot of times now, even like I become very defensive, and I'm going to let you know, like we would have a conversation. Like even like okay, so when I said I was in a car accident, right? And so here goes, the police pulls up, and I need to make a statement, but then he did not acknowledge the fact that I was standing there waiting, and I had to say, "Excuse me, but do you not see me standing here?" And so then he stops and then gives me a little attitude. I don't deal with attitude well. Like, no, but I feel like if I respect you, then you should respect me. But if you're not going to respect me, then I'm going to show you, buddy. And I hate to come off like that, but I just feel like sometimes I'm walked over and like I'm not heard. And then it's just like, hold on a second, you better hear me. Yeah. So and in the past, I had got a ticket for something, and I got into it with the police officer at the courthouse. And one of my sisters was waiting in a different room. And so me and the police officer, we got into an argument, a heated one. And she said, I heard you around the corner. I thought you was going to jail. I don't back down. I can't. Like I can, but I don't know. Like it feels like when that disrespected me, or in my mind that I feel like I'm being disrespected, then I turn into somebody totally different. Yes, yeah. I never seen this side of me. So I try to keep this part of me tame, and like I'm really working on it. And I can feel when I'm about to go into that, and I learn how to bring it back down so that I don't get out of character, because in the end, I always end up feeling bad because it's not the person that I want to be, but I feel like I have to get my point across. Like, you're not going to talk to me any kind of thing.
I don't know why you feel bad about it.
Because it's not the behavior that I want to have, and I feel like I've created that. Well, I don't want to say I created this, but I feel like over the years, it's something that I have. It's become like maybe I don't want to say a pattern, but I feel like I had to go into that defense mode, just working around certain people, and maybe it's the way that I feel like I'm protecting myself. I know that it's wrong. I know that my behavior is wrong, and I can identify that. But I'm working on it. I can see the wrong.
I don't know. If you think it's wrong, that I can't change the way you think about it. But I just don't
Yeah.
see why standing up for yourself and being assertive is something that's wrong.
So you're saying that I'm right? Okay, well I'm gonna go back out there and
I
do
ain't saying
exactly
I
what you
because I look. I try not to think in a way because thinking of like right or wrong is so black and white, right? Like, are you
Yeah.
doing what's most appropriate for the situation?
Yeah.
Right. So that's how I try to look at things, and it
That,
sounds
I
like
think that's a good
those
answer.
moments, those moments, it sounds like based on what's happening,
Yeah.
that's what you have to do.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? I think so because, and I'm gonna tell you something else. I spent a lot of times in courthouses volunteering, and so I had some kids that I had to show up to court and stuff like that, and I would see these attorneys, and there'll be these judges, and they be talk, and they'll always be like afraid to stand up for themselves or afraid to speak up. And I'm just like, this is just another individual. Like, I understand that you need to give people respect, but they also need to give you respect. Where's your voice? Like, what's wrong with you? And so, and that's why, I'm just like, no. And so I knew that if I had ever been in that situation, they'd probably put me out because I don't know why. Like, where's your fight? Like, that's how where's your fight? Yeah, so. No, I'm terrible. I really am. It's funny to me, but yeah, I see it all the time, and I'm just like, and maybe you're right. Maybe some people just lack the service or the what's the word I was going to say. I don't know. It's something else I was going to say, but yeah. Well, I think that those are just some things that I probably just need to work on a little bit, or just maybe I need to really just sit down and think about like those situations when it arises, and then kind of just, evaluate my behavior and see if it justifies, like, how far I push it to go.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. There's a line. You got assertive communication, you got passive communication, and you got aggressive communication.
That's what I was looking for.
So
That's
we want to make sure we're being assertive in our communication where we can. But I don't know. I can be pretty aggressive in my communication sometimes. I think we all can.
You mean like as a therapist, or you mean just like
just in general? Just in general, because like I'm human, right? Like, so I get triggered by different things, and sometimes I can be pretty aggressive in my communication. The thing is, I always know when I'm doing it though. Like, I know when I'm doing it, but it's just I think the situation calls for it right now. But there's a difference between like being aggressive and being assertive, though. You know what I mean? It's a fine line.
When you feel like you're being triggered, do you ever go back and break that down or unpack it? Try to figure out, okay, where did that come from? Why did I behave in that manner? Is that like, would that be important for you? Or are you just like, oh, I was triggered, and then are you curious enough to know, like, I need to figure out, what brought me to that point?
Yeah, no, I know my triggers. Like, I can't say that I know all of them, but I know when I'm triggered. I know kind of what's going on. But that's just from, if you're gonna work with other people, you gotta be very self-aware. You know what I mean? So I know what my triggers are. My wife knows what my triggers are. My mom knows what some of my triggers are. Like, so people learn you, people know you, they know what your triggers are. So like, very, very rarely in my in my later adult life have I been angry or frustrated and not known why it's happening. Like, because I'm just I know what's going on in the moment, but that's just a lot of self-analysis, self-evaluation. So I know what's going on, and now I may go back and say, okay, maybe I could have responded differently, but I know what's going on, and I make a conscious decision the vast majority of the time to kind of go in the direction that I'm gonna go in with my communication or how I handle stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But still human, so sometimes something might happen, and I may not necessarily be aware of it. But in those situations that I say, okay, that's something that I didn't know was a trigger for me. So now let me kind of go back and look at it and see how I can prepare myself if something like that were to come around in the future.
So even with triggers, like, even if you go back and you realize where it stemmed from, how do people get around that so that it doesn't happen again? Or is it something that you just can't change? You just got to be able to clean it when it comes.
Yeah, a lot of different approaches, right? Some people, some therapists are very, very focused on let's go back to your childhood and identify why this is a trigger for you. Myself, I'm kind of a present. I focus on the present a great deal, and I don't dismiss the importance or try to minimize the importance of going back to those moments. But I focus a great deal on, okay, how is this causing you concerns in your life right now? How is this showing up right now? Let's focus on allowing you to work through this and not have it present a concern right now. So let's address the presenting symptoms right now, right? You know what I mean? So if you have like a history with a certain thing, like with, I don't know, you got a history with, I'm trying to think of an example. Like if you got a history with dogs, right? Like you don't like dogs, you're afraid of dogs. Do I really need to go back to when you were 9 and a dog bit you, or do I just need to work with you on developing effective coping skills for right now to deal with when you see dogs, right? Like, so neither one is more important or more beneficial or effective than the other, but you have different ways of being able to address it.
What about like people who have a history? Well, okay, like what if someone goes through like a really bad breakup or whatever, comes to you, I had this breakup but they had a repeated pattern or history of I don't want to say bad people in their lives or whatever like that, but saying just choosing the wrong partner. So do you just focus on the right now, or do you go back and see why they try to help them to figure out, in their childhood, why they kind of draw to that type, or what's missing in their life?
Yeah, I got you. For me, I try to look at having them assess their behavior. Like, can we identify a pattern of behavior in those situations, and not dismissing what other people have, people they've been in relationships with, the things that they might have done or things that have happened in the past. But let's look at the pattern of behavior. Let's look at the decision making and see what we might be able to target there. And then most times we'll find that, oh yeah, here's what's going on. Here's what's going on with me, because I ain't working with those other people. Like, I don't, they'll tell me about those people, but I want to focus on what's going on with you, what's going on in your processing that's allowed you to land in these, in these relationships or in these situations, and then see if there are things that we can change there. Because we don't have to change everything. There's some things that we need to look at and try to change. A lot of times I found that people land in relationships and they realize that they saw things early on in those relationships that they minimize. I get so tired of the term red flags, but they see things many times that they look back on early on. They're like, oh yeah, I saw that. I thought that I could help them change that, or I thought that they would change that. And that's where kind of the pattern of kind of failed relationships come from, looking at people and thinking that you can change those things. But no, like, when we get in this relationship, let's identify these things. And if these are things that you think that you can live with, okay, then move forward. But if you think that if these things never change, can you see this being a healthy relationship? No. Well, you probably need to get the hell out of that relationship, because there's no guarantee that person's going to change.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's so funny. I think that people, and it's hard, I've done this before. I feel like I hadn't been selfish enough. Like, I should focus more on myself. And I feel like if this isn't lined up with what I'm asking God for, then this is not right. Because I'm not going to say, oh, I make a list of things that I'm expecting, from a job or from a relationship or anything. But if it doesn't line up with where I want to go or what I'm looking for, then there's no need for me to be here. Like, and I had to come to a place, for that, in my life to figure that part out. But if it doesn't make sense, it just doesn't make sense. It's not the right person, or this is not the right job, and it's okay to walk away. And I feel like over the years, like, and I've done the stayed in job position that wasn't that didn't work for me. That it didn't help me it wasn't helping me to grow. It was actually putting me in a bad position, like putting me in a bad place. And you know how sometimes you just stick things out because you have responsibility, you have so much going, and it's like not people, I'm gonna say myself. I continue to tell myself, I had to make it work. I had to do this, or I had to stick it out, or the reasons why I couldn't leave. When I should say, here's all the reasons why I can't or I should leave. And then finally, like I got to a point in my life where I just start leaving. Like I'm not like a runner or anything like that, but if it doesn't make sense, it just doesn't make sense. And it's absolutely okay. I feel like sometimes we hold things so tight in our hands instead of opening our hands and just letting go. Because when we let go, our hands are open to receive something different. And that's the job or relationship, So I feel like I'm on a team of just cut ties and move forward. And it should be okay. And I think that makes me happier, and I think that it's healthy.
I think it's healthy. I think so. I think so. Life.
It's very interesting. It is. And I feel like there's no preparation for any of this. And sometimes I know that people put a lot of things out there, and a lot of people follow. But now I'm at a point where I don't really just listen to a whole lot of stuff. I feel like I know that there's some good information out there, and I know that people share so that we don't feel like we're alone. People share so that we don't make the same mistakes. But I think that sometimes the mistakes are necessary, because a lot of stuff that we take from other people may be something that they learn from someone else, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right way of doing things. And so for me, I find myself, and you know what, I think I'm gonna take this route. I'm gonna try this out, because sometimes I feel like whatever it is that you believe, that's just what it is. If I believe it's gonna work in this way, then it's probably gonna work for me. But it might not work for you because that's not what you believe. And I feel like there's so many different routes or avenues to get to wherever it is that you're trying to get to. So I'm gonna just go this way. I'm gonna just do it how I want to do it. And we'll live on my own terms. Or what? I mean, you know what? You're gonna be stuck living a life for someone else. I want to be free.
That's it. I'm gonna do what I want to do. I'm gonna make my choices based on the information I got. And if I look up and I say, "Ooh, probably wasn't the best choice," all right, I get back to the drawing board and try to figure it out again. But I ain't gonna do stuff just because that's what I think of.
But you can navigate from bad decisions. Like I think that something good could come out of something that's bad. It's not, it might be like a hard learning lesson, but I really feel like something good could come out of something that's bad.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I do not disagree.
I do appreciate you hopping on and having a conversation with me. I do appreciate everything that you brought to the table, and hopefully whoever listens to this, they receive something in return.
We'll see. Definitely. It's always a pleasure. I know we don't get to talk a whole lot because I be busy. I be in no man's land. Just kind of, people say, you don't follow up with me enough. You don't call me back enough. Well,
it's hard when you got a family.
It's not personal.
Not at all. I do get it. I understand. So,
not personal, but a pleasure. Love you much, and we'll catch up.
All right, man. Bye.
All right.
This episode is sponsored by the Twindle Foundation. The Twindle Foundation is a nonprofit organization dedicated to changing the wealth gap of African Americans and minorities by increasing homeownership. Did you know that 44% of Black families own their home compared to 73% of white families? A barrier to minority homeownership is student loan debt. Through scholarship, the Twindle Foundation is providing minority students with an opportunity to take on less financial debt. To give to the Twindle Foundation, visit www.twindlefoundation.org.